You're safe now. Let's take a slow step away from this moment, away from the ticking clocks, the traffic, the glare of screens. Let's drift instead to a place that doesn't quite exist anymore. Not fully. Not in the way it once did. A place where the wind moved like it was remembering something through trees so tall they seemed to lean closer to hear it whisper. Where the sun hung low and red on the edge of forever, and the sea breathed in long cold sighs against a stony shore. This was a land with no roads, no names carved into wood, just footpaths stamped by generations of boots and bare soles. No schedules, only seasons. No alarms, only the crackle of frost in the morning air and the caw of gulls like old ghosts arguing overhead. Welcome to the edge of time, a Viking village tucked against a fjord. You won't find it on a map, only in the folds of fog between now and 1,000 years ago. You wake up with something rough against your cheek. Straw, maybe, or reeds, or just the cold-packed dirt of the longhouse floor. Your wrists shake a little, not from rope, but from the stiffness of sleep without a pillow. There's a heaviness in your limbs like you've been chopping wood all night, and your breath fogs in the air, white as morning milk. The roof above you is dark, thick beams, hung low, strung with herbs and the scent of old smoke. A fire nearby crackles with sleepy laziness, casting faint orange shapes on the walls, shadows of a kettle, a stool, maybe a fur hanging crooked. You hear snoring, not yours, deeper, from the far side of the hall, and the soft sound of wool shifting as someone turns over in their blanket. There's something cooking, barley maybe, or fish, something earthy, salt-heavy, and warm. You flex your fingers. They're calloused rough with cold, not your usual hands. You don't know where your shoes are, but you know somehow they're thick leather, caked with yesterday's mud. Your toes curl trying to remember how they got here. Maybe you were taken. Maybe you wandered into the wrong harbor tavern and drank too much. Maybe you owe someone coin or honor or a favor from a lifetime ago. Or maybe you were born here, and this is just your life now. The reason doesn't matter anymore, not to them, not to the ones who saw you come in and didn't bother asking your name. You're just another body in the longhouse, another set of hands for the oars, for the fields, for the forge. A number, a figure, a heartbeat among the many. If you enjoy these soft steps backward in time, you're welcome to gently tap the like button, or maybe subscribe to the channel if your heart feels so inclined. Only if you'd like to wander here again on another quiet night. Now, where are you right now? Are you curled up in bed, tucked under a warm blanket, or lying on a couch, the lights low, the room gently humming with stillness? Is it late where you are? Can you hear the soft stir of a fan or the distant hush of night traffic outside your window? Whatever time it is, I'm glad you're here. It's just us now. If you haven't already, go ahead and turn off the lights. Let the dark settle in like velvet. Maybe turn on a little background. Hum a soft fan, a gentle rain, whatever comforts you. Let your body soften against the mattress. Let your hands fall open. Nothing is urgent, not tonight, not here. So, now close your eyes and let's begin tonight's journey. The year is somewhere around 862. The air smells of peat smoke and seawater, and outside your door, a Viking village is stretching awake, ready to begin a very, very normal day. Dawn smells like smoke and sheep. Hey guys, tonight we're going to a place where the mornings don't start with alarms or emails, but with frost on your eyebrows and the distant grunt of a pig that's somehow already mad at you. You're about to spend a completely ordinary day in a Viking village where ordinary means something between mildly exhausting and you probably won't survive this. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. And tell me, where are you listening from? What time is it where you are? Are you under a blanket, curled up, listening to the wind outside your window? Or maybe just trying to muffle the sound of a neighbor's dog, pretending to be a Viking himself? Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum. And let's ease into tonight's journey together. It's barely morning, but you're already awake. You don't know how long you've been lying on the straw-stuffed mat trying not to cough every time someone stokes the central hearth. The smoke doesn't exactly rise. It just lingers like a lazy ghost. You blink slowly, the ceiling beam still dark above you, soot-stained and sagging slightly under the weight of centuries of smoke and hanging herbs. The air smells like burnt wood, sheep wool, and something faintly sour that might be yesterday's fish stew still clinging to a pot no one bothered to scrub. Somewhere in the distance a rooster crows, like it's still learning how. Another one answers less enthusiastically, possibly mid-sneeze. You roll over. A piece of straw stabs your cheek. The blanket on top of you is fur, roughly stitched, probably once belonged to something that still had opinions. It's warm enough, but damp at the edges. Your back cracks as you sit up. Someone has definitely stolen your left shoe. Your bare foot hits the packed earth floor with a thud and a wince. It's cold enough to bite, the kind of cold that wraps itself around your ankles and just waits for your soul to give up. You look around. A few others are stirring. One woman is already feeding the fire, muttering to herself in Old Norse, which even if you spoke, it still sounds like someone reciting a legal complaint to a goat. Outside the longhouse, the wind howls gently, not a full scream, more like a warning sigh, the kind of sound that makes your shoulders hunch instinctively, even under all that fur. There's movement at the far end of the hall. Someone's scraping something into a wooden bowl. Porridge, maybe. Or whatever Vikings called porridge that doesn't involve oats, but might involve ground bark. Your stomach isn't sure if it's interested or just resigning itself to the inevitable. You stand careful not to wake the child sleeping 2 feet from your knee. You don't know his name and he doesn't know yours. But he snores like an old man and clutches a carved wooden bear like it owes him rent. You shuffle to the door, boots in hand. Well, one boot and a fur-wrapped lump that'll have to do. As you push aside the heavy hide curtain, the outside world punches your face with a slap of icy air. You flinch, tears forming immediately. Your breath fogs out like you're part dragon. Cold, hard earth stretches before you, rutted and muddy, scattered with straw and chicken prints and last night's fire ash. This is your street. It has no name. Just the longhouse, the forge, the fish drying rack, the barn, and a path that knows exactly where your foot will sink if you're not paying attention. Welcome to the village. Historians still argue whether small Viking settlements had any real urban planning or if it was just huts tossed together with a general shrug. What's agreed on is this: they were functional, compact, and every single one smelled faintly of cabbage. You glance at the gray sky, flat, heavy, pressing low like a ceiling that could collapse any second. The kind of sky that makes noon look like 5 p.m. in a world where happiness never fully hatches. And then, bleeding. A goat wanders by, wearing a look of disdain you didn't know goats could possess. It pauses to sniff your leg, decides you're not worth the trouble, and trots off toward the forge like it's got business. In the distance, someone is already yelling about firewood. You haven't even had breakfast. Bread, fish, and a blunt knife. Your fingers are stiff and half frozen as you fumble with your one actual boot and the other less reputable foot wrap solution. The boot squeaks as you tug it on stiff leather, warped from snow, and use unkind to toes. The other feels damp. You don't investigate. That way lies despair. The wind isn't just cold, it's opinionated. It slices across the village like it has somewhere to be, rattling the drying rack beside the smokehouse and whipping a few unlucky feathers off a pile of plucked fowl. You pull your cloak tighter, though it doesn't help much. Wool holds heat like a memory. It fades the second you think about it too hard. Your breath clouds around you as you trudge toward the cooking fire. It's not exactly a kitchen, just a pit of stone smoke curling upward from a low flame. Someone has coaxed out of damp logs, probably by sheer willpower and muttered threats. Over it hangs a pot, blackened with age and regret. Inside, something thick beige and bubbling in a way that suggests it's alive. A woman stirs it with a stick that may once have been part of a tree, but is now very clearly a utensil. She nods at you. You nod back. No words are exchanged. You both know what's coming. She ladles the mixture into a wooden bowl and hands it to you. The bowl is warm. That's the nicest thing you can say about it. The contents smell like barley onion and the tired sigh of a fish who didn't quite get away. There is also a knife. It's dull. So dull, in fact, that you wonder if it's ceremonial. You use it to saw through a chunk of bread that could double as construction material. Bits crumble off. You pretend not to notice. You dip it in the gruel. It helps. A little. You take a bite. It tastes like heat and sadness, but mostly heat. A man sits beside you, You don't know his name either, but he smells like leather and salt, and his hands look like they've been personally insulted by every rope in Scandinavia. He chews slowly, stares at the fire, and mutters something about yesterday's wind being lazier. You nod, like you agree. You have no idea what he means. The morning drags. The sun rises reluctantly, just enough to cast a grayish light over the fields where frost still clings like gossip. You finish your breakfast slowly, not because you're savoring it, but because the alternative is standing up and doing things. Still, there's no avoiding it. You rise bowl in hand and set it on the washing plank where someone will deal with it later. Possibly a child. Possibly the same goat from earlier. In this village, both seem equally capable. You pass by the forge. Inside, a blacksmith pounds iron like it insulted his ancestors. Sparks fly. The warmth is tempting, but the look he gives you says don't even think about loitering. You keep walking. You pass a few other villagers. One is sharpening an axe. Another is weaving something that might be rope or just a very angry hairstyle. Everyone looks busy. Everyone looks cold. Everyone is pretending they didn't hear you fart when you stood up 5 minutes ago. As you make your way toward the animal pens, your fingers finally regain feeling just in time for them to hurt. It's a special kind of rural luxury frostbite that doubles as a wake-up call. Historians still argue whether breakfast in Viking villages was a communal affair or handled more privately within individual homes. What is known is that it was usually simple grain-based, occasionally with dried or salted fish, and rarely included anything that required smiling. And the knives. Those were technically called sayaks, and while they were useful for everything from slicing bread to self-defense, today's specimen could barely win a staring contest with butter. A child runs past you laughing. She's barefoot. You stare in horror. She doesn't seem to notice the cold at all. Her tiny feet slap the icy mud like she was born in a glacier and only came inside to mock the weak. You sigh. You flex your fingers again. The sun is a pale coin above the treetops, already losing interest. You take a deep breath that tastes like wood smoke, boiled grain, and the distinct tang of animal proximity. And you begin walking. You're not entirely sure where you're going, but judging by the way someone just shoved a bucket into your hands and pointed at the stream, congratulations, you are now on official water duty. You trudge on. Get dressed or get judged. The bucket creaks with each step, its wooden slats warped from years of use and perhaps mild betrayal. It leaks slightly, just enough to be annoying, but not enough to be replaced. You don't know where the newer buckets are kept. You suspect they only exist in legends. The stream isn't far, but it feels far. Maybe it's the mud, or the weight of your one functioning boot, which now has a rock lodged firmly under your heel. Or maybe it's the psychological toll of having fish stew for breakfast. Again. As you walk, chickens scatter in front of you like feathery tumbleweeds. One of them glares at you. You glare back. The chicken wins. You reach the stream, crouch down, and dunk the bucket into the icy water. It groans like an old man entering a cold bath. So do you. Your hands scream at the temperature, but the numbness wins quickly. You pull the bucket out, water sloshing over the edge and onto your foot wrap. Of course, you stand up slowly, feeling every bone in your back lodge a formal complaint. You start back toward the longhouse, bucket in hand, and now you have time to wonder, how did you end up here? Were you taken? A captured soul from a raid gone wrong, now pressed into service in a village that doesn't ask your name. Maybe you owed someone something, coin, a favor, a promise you don't remember making. Or maybe you were born here. Maybe you've always been a part of this place. One more set of shoulders under the yoke of frost and firewood. But really, does it matter? The reason doesn't matter anymore. Not to the others. Not to the earth beneath your feet. Not to the man who grunted when he passed you earlier and hasn't spoken since. Here you are, just another pair of hands, another back to bend, a set of eyes to squint into the snow. You are not a name, not today. You are function. They call it survival. You call it a Tuesday. Historians still argue whether Viking society was as rigidly hierarchical as the sagas suggest. Sure, there were jarls, carls and thralls, nobles, free folk, and slaves, but everyday life didn't always care what label you carried. If you could chop wood, haul water, or gut a fish without crying, you were probably useful. If not, you'd better start pretending. As you re-enter the village, a man nods toward you. It's not a greeting. It's a vague approval that you haven't spilled the water. You nod back. A social contract fulfilled. You drop off the bucket near the fire pit. Someone takes it. Doesn't thank you. That's fine. You weren't expecting applause. You weren't even expecting dry feet. A woman presses a handful of hay into your arms and gestures toward the animal pens. You nod again. You're starting to forget what it felt like to not be nodded at. The pen is muddy and loud. A pig squeals the moment it sees you. A sheep bleats disapprovingly. A cow looks at you like it's seen things dark, unforgivable things, and you are not helping. You toss in the hay. The animals descend on it like it's a feast. One pig tries to climb a goat. You look away. You smell terrible already. It's not even midday. There's a child outside the fence, watching you with interest. He's holding a stick that might be a toy sword or might be a real sword, depending on how much his parents value surprise. You give him a slight wave. He narrows his eyes. You move on. You head toward the woodpile next, where someone hands you an axe without asking. The handle is smooth from use, the blade chipped. Still better than the breakfast knife. The logs are thick. Your arms are not. But you start swinging anyway, rhythmically, like you've done this before. Maybe you have. Maybe you always will. The sky is still gray. The air still smells like effort. Your shoulders ache. Your fingers sting. And your stomach considers a mutiny. But none of it matters. You're here now. And there's still so much left to do. Chores that would crush your spine. Wood chopping isn't just a chore, it's a performance. Each swing is a quiet negotiation between your back muscles and the weight of the axe. An axe that somehow manages to feel heavier every time you pick it up, like it's absorbing your complaints and returning them with interest. The first log splits cleanly, the second doesn't. It stares at you like a challenge. You hit it again. It shudders, but holds. The third blow misses entirely and catches your shin. You don't cry out. You simply make a face that would terrify a modern dentist and keep swinging. By the fourth log, your breath comes in short, cloudy huffs. Your shoulders hum. Your palms sting. The axe handle bites into your skin like it's trying to teach you something you don't learn. A nearby villager nods. It might mean good job, or you missed a spot, or I once chopped wood during a hailstorm while being chased by a bear. It's hard to say. Vikings were not historically known for over-explaining their feelings. A rooster struts past, looking superior. You consider challenging it. You do not. Eventually, you're told to stop, not verbally. A woman simply walks over, takes the axe, and hands you a pitchfork. No words exchanged, just a transfer of suffering. You follow her toward the barn. Now begins the gentle joy of mucking out animal stalls. You've never known a smell could be both earthy and apocalyptic, but here you are. The straw is damp. The floor squelches. One of the goats gives you a look that says you're not doing it right. You ignore it. You shovel muck. You drag spoiled hay. You try not to inhale through your nose, which backfires when you accidentally taste the air instead. You briefly consider running away. You don't know where. Maybe to the mountains. Maybe just into the sea. But you don't. You stay. Because it's what's expected. Historians still argue whether labor in Viking villages was strictly divided by gender, while sagas often glorify warriors and raiders. Most people, regardless of identity, did whatever needed doing. If your back could bend, it bent. If your arms could lift, they lifted. If you complained too loudly, someone's grandmother would outwork you just to prove a point. You pause to lean on your pitchfork. Outside, the wind picks up. It whistles through the cracks in the barn walls, tossing little swirls of hay into the air like tiny ghosts dancing just out of reach. Your stomach grumbles. It's still haunted by the fish gruel experience and clearly holds a grudge. Someone tosses you a small round of flatbread and half a dried apple. You eat without thinking. The bread is hard but edible. The apple tastes like someone once whispered fruit near it. Still, you don't complain. It's something. After lunch, you're herded, yes, herded, toward the edge of the village, where a small field lies half frozen under the slate-colored sky. A handful of others are already there, stabbing the ground with crude wooden tools and muttering. You're handed something that looks like a hoe, but could also be a punishment device. Either way, you get to work. The soil is stiff, unyielding. Every push into the earth is met with resistance, as though the ground itself resents your efforts. Your hands blister, your arms ache. Your spine begins composing a letter of protest. And yet, no one stops. You steal glances at the others. No one smiles. No one sings. The only sound is the rhythmic crunch of tool into soil and the occasional sniffle of someone refusing to acknowledge the cold. A man near you mutters something about how this field was tougher last year. Another responds with a grunt that could mean agreement or indigestion, possibly both. You keep digging. There's a strange comfort in it. The rhythm, the shared struggle, the complete absence of email. Still, you're starting to feel it, the bone-deep weariness. You shift your weight, wince, and stretch your back with a crack so loud even the goat in the barn pauses. You glance up. The sun has barely moved. Time here doesn't pass, it seeps. You return to digging, one clump of frost-bitten soil at a time. The cow escapes again, just as you're beginning to think nothing else can go wrong today. You hear it, a sound that is by now deeply familiar, low, wet, purposeful. It is the sound of a cow on a mission. You turn your head slowly. The field, the frost, the ache in your shoulders, all vanish as your focus locks on the figure at the village edge, lumbering unpredictable, chewing something with profound resentment. It's her, the cow, the one who escapes every single time. She stands perfectly still for a moment, making direct eye contact with you. There's a shared history here, a rivalry, a saga. She's already halfway through the gate rope, trailing behind her like a dramatic exit scarf. You drop your tool and begin to run. The chase is on. Your feet slap against the muddy ground as you shout something that sounds like a command but feels more like a prayer. Others in the field look up, sigh, and return to digging. They've seen this episode. They know how it ends. You round the corner of the fish drying racks, duck under a low arch, and nearly collide with a cartwheel. The cow dodges like a trained thief. She barrels toward the forge. The blacksmith barely glances up. Again, he mutters. You don't answer. You're already moving. Again, breath puffing in cloudy bursts, arms flailing, one boot half off. The cow darts past. The well slips once recovers with insulting grace and launches herself into the open space near the chieftain's hall, which is unfortunately where people are trying to nap. You hear shouts. A pot breaks. A dog starts barking. You nearly trip over the dog. The cow does not. The cow leaps the dog. You didn't know cows could leap. Historians still argue whether Viking cows were more docile than their modern descendants. Evidence suggests they were smaller and wirier, but apparently also possessed a deep sense of vengeance and an intuitive understanding of dramatic timing. Eventually, you corner her near the edge of the woods, where she pauses to inspect a pine cone and momentarily forget her rebellion. You lunge. You grab the rope. You both stand there panting. She glares at you. You glare back. There is a moment of mutual respect, and then she sneezes directly on your chest. It's warm and oddly personal. You trudge back to the village, leading the cow with a hand now numb and covered in. You hope it's just mud. Your breath is shallow. Your dignity is long gone. A few children follow you giggling. Someone offers a half-hearted cheer. Didn't even break anything this time, they say. Progress. You get the cow back into the pen and double knot the rope with the determination of someone who now fears bovine intelligence. The cow turns away and begins chewing smugly. You consider writing a saga about her, then decide she'd probably sue you for libel. As you wipe your hands on your already filthy tunic, you realize something truly heartbreaking. You still haven't had second breakfast. You consider protesting. You consider staging a minor rebellion. Then someone hands you a small piece of smoked fish wrapped in leaf. You eat it in 2 bites. It's salty and dry, but edible. Your teeth hurt. Everything hurts. But the cow is back in the pen. You're calling this a win. The sun, such as it is, casts a watery light over the village now. It's not warm, it's not bright, but it is consistent. You sit for a moment on an overturned barrel and let yourself breathe. Just 1 breath. 2. You stretch your back. You close your eyes. You hear a child trip over a chicken. You open your eyes again, and you keep going. Fieldwork, frostbite, and faint praise. You're not sure how long you sit there on that splintery old barrel. Long enough for your knees to get stiff, but not long enough for anyone to leave you alone. Because now comes the field work. Again. You've already tasted the soil with your hands and the wind with your face, but now it's time to truly bond with both, intimately, repeatedly, and without permission. Someone hands you a tool. It's got a handle and a sharpish end. It might be a hoe. It might be a farming relic from an older, crueler century. Either way, it says, go stab dirt. So you do. The field is half thawed now, the topsoil sticky and cold, the underlayer frozen, like it made a deal with the gods to never cooperate with humans again. You plant your feet and lean into each swing, breaking clumps of icy earth, apart each one, resisting like a small insult. Your hands are raw. Your breath comes in bursts. The muscles between your shoulder blades are currently writing their last will and testament. And every time you stop for more than 5 seconds, someone older and wirier gives you a look that says, we had it harder and we did it faster, uphill, both ways. You keep digging, because if you don't, they'll make you herd ducks again. The others around you are working too, in silence, in cold solidarity. Every so often someone mutters a single word, like rocks, or roots, or ugh. That's the full extent of communication. But the message is clear. Field work is the worst. Historians still argue whether Viking villagers actually did much in the way of organized farming. Some suggest they relied more on livestock and foraging. Others believe small crop patches like this one were the backbone of survival. Either way, no one denies that farming in this climate was basically a long, muddy negotiation with winter. Your reward for this labor, a compliment from an elder who stops beside you, inspects your row nods once, and grunts. High praise. You almost smile. Almost. But then, from the ridge above the field, someone calls out. You squint up at the voice shielding your eyes. It's one of the village boys waving excitedly, motioning for someone to come help. You look around, hoping someone else moves. They don't. You're the chosen one now. So, you follow the boy up a short path and find yourself standing at the edge of a tangled mess of branches, snow, and what appears to be the remnants of a collapsed fence. And beneath that fence is an older man, muttering, and somehow stuck. You blink. He blinks back. There are no instructions, just expectations. So you wade in, clearing brambles, muttering your own words now. Some in English, some in something older and probably untranslatable. The man is surprisingly calm for someone who might be stuck forever. He offers helpful insights like, watch the thorns, and it wasn't like this last week. After some collective shoving, lifting, and groaning, he's free. He pats your shoulder with a hand that smells of ash and elderberries. You have no idea why. You don't ask. You return to the village slightly more scratched and significantly more confused than before. Someone passes you a ladle with broth in it. Fish again. You sip it while standing. That's lunch. Welcome to Viking ergonomics. You move to a bench near the central fire. It's not really warmer here, but it gives the illusion of warmth, which to be fair is 80% of warmth. Your fingers finally start to regain some feeling. That's when the itching begins. The wool of your tunic rubs against your neck like sandpaper blessed by Odin himself. You squirm, you scratch. You try to look dignified while performing a full-body discomfort dance. It doesn't work. The child from earlier sees you, points, laughs. You're a local celebrity now. You sigh and adjust the collar. Somewhere behind you, someone starts singing. It's a low humming tune, half lullaby, half threat. It loops hypnotic and slow, and you find your shoulders relaxing a little despite themselves. The sun has moved an inch. You consider this progress. Gossip over soup with fish bones. The singing fades, replaced by the wet thud of boots returning from the river and the unmistakable sound of someone trying to wrestle a goose into silence. You don't look. You've learned that some Viking events are best left uninvestigated. Instead, you shuffle toward the longhouse for a brief break. The smoke inside is still clinging to the beams like gossip, and the air tastes faintly of boiled onions and old ash. You spot a corner relatively free of goats' children or mysterious puddles and settle onto a bench that might have once been a tree, but now mostly resembles a splinter collection. Lunch, if you can call it that, is being distributed again. You are handed a wooden bowl that smells of every lunch it's ever held. Inside is a tepid soup, flecked with bits of dried leek bones that still look annoyed to be involved, and a generous helping of mystery. You sip. It's warm, which is the nicest thing anyone can say about it. A woman sits next to you, adjusting her headscarf and balancing a toddler on one knee. She starts talking softly, quickly, like she's getting it all out before the child interrupts. You pick up bits and pieces. Someone's goat is pregnant. Someone else owes her sister 3 spoons, and there's a squirrel in the food storage again. You nod, smile faintly. Then she leans closer and tells you a bit of gossip, so surprising you nearly choke on a bone. Apparently the blacksmith has been singing to his tools again. This is not shocking because he sings, but because he insists they perform better when serenaded, specifically love songs in falsetto. You make a noise of polite disbelief. She leans back, triumphant. The toddler sneezes directly into your bowl. You thank the gods silently and hand the bowl off to a nearby chicken, who inspects it, decides it's beneath her, and walks away. A boy across the room is trying to braid his sister's hair with a bone needle. It's going poorly. The sister is losing patience. The needle is gaining knots. There's something oddly comforting about it all. The routine, the noise, the familiarity of shared discomfort. Historians still argue whether Viking meals were truly communal or if family units tended to keep to themselves during mealtime. Most agree that food preparation was a central part of village life, and gossip delivered alongside soup and bone splinters was very likely one of the primary forms of information sharing. After lunch, there's a brief lull. People settle. Some nap. Some mend. Some sit with their eyes half closed, hands moving without thought, carving, stitching, sharpening. You catch yourself doing the same, fingering a loose thread in your cloak over and over, like it holds some forgotten spell. You stand up, knees cracking like firewood, and step outside again. The air is brighter now, not warmer, just clearer. The clouds are thinner, allowing a watery sunbeam or two to slip through like nervous visitors. A small group is gathered near the well. They're laughing, loudly. You drift closer and hear snippets of the story, something about a dog, a runaway wheelbarrow, and a man who lost both his boots and his lunch in the same afternoon. No one's telling it well, but the effort is appreciated. Someone offers you a sip of something strong and brown. You take it. It burns. Your ears sweat. Children run by, one of them yelling about a stick sword, which sounds harmless until you see the stick. It's sharpened. The child is not supervised. You step out of the way just in time to avoid becoming part of a lesson in Viking first aid. You walk toward the edge of the village where quiet lives for a few minutes at a time. A line of fish dries on a rack, twitching faintly in the wind. A dog naps in the sun patch. A bird lands on a fence post, screams once for no reason, and flies off. You sit on a log, not because you're invited, but because your knees have staged a mutiny. Your fingers ache. Your face is wind-burned. But for a moment, just one, everything is still. Even the cow. You allow yourself a deep breath. Then someone yells your name. They need help. Again. Children who definitely have knives. The yell comes from somewhere near the storage sheds, followed by a sharp clatter and what can only be described as giggles of escalating mischief. You groan not loudly, just enough for your soul to hear, and drag yourself upright. Your legs now move like they were negotiated for not built. You turn the corner, and there they are, the village children, all of them, gathered in a swarm, brandishing sticks, wooden shields, and at least one item that looks suspiciously like a real axe. You freeze instinctively, raising your hands, palms out, the universal gesture for "I'm too tired to be involved in whatever this is." One of the smaller kids immediately points at you. "You're the enemy." You blink. "I just got here." Too late. They charge. You are now officially the villain in a Viking saga composed entirely by 10-year-olds with questionable upper body strength and excellent aim. One pelts you with a moss-covered pine cone. Another strikes your shin with a wooden spear that is, in fact, just a broom handle. You attempt diplomacy. "I'm neutral," you say. A traveling minstrel, a tax inspector, anything. But the smallest one, a girl with braided hair and eyes like storm clouds, shouts "traitor" and lunges. You dodge barely and trip over a sack of turnips. Down you go. You land hard, but mostly on pride. The children cheer. You lie there for a moment, reconsidering your life, your decisions, and whether this counts as cardio. One of the kids leans over and declares, "You're dead now." You nod. "Yes. Yes, I am." A moment later, someone rescues you, a teenage boy with the exhausted air of an older brother. He shouts something, and the pack of tiny warriors scatter like gulls. He offers you a hand. "They're training," he says, "for what you ask, brushing hay from your hair." He shrugs. Everything. Historians still argue whether Viking children actually trained with weapons from such a young age. Evidence suggests they played mock battles, practiced basic skills, and generally knew more about livestock and swordplay at 8 than most modern adults do at 40. But it's unclear how formal or how dangerous this training really was. You dust yourself off and limp away before they declare a rematch. Your next task, apparently, is helping reinforce a fence that's been partially digested by goats. It's not glamorous, it's not fun, but it's blissfully quiet. You hammer wooden stakes into the ground using a stone because someone borrowed the mallet and forgot where it went. Each hit vibrates up your arm and into your teeth. Progress is slow, very slow, but no one is attacking you with sticks, so that's a win. As you work, you notice something out of the corner of your eye. Movement, tiny fingers poking through a pile of hay. You step closer. It's one of the kids hiding, or maybe nesting. She grins at you and puts a finger to her lips. "Shh, I'm on a mission." You nod solemnly. "I see. Do you require backup?" She considers, then nods. You both crouch behind the haystack, watching the others from a distance, sharing the kind of alliance that only exhaustion and mutual respect can forge. She offers you a piece of dried fruit. You accept it without question. It's sweet and chewy, and possibly older than you. You eat it anyway. Soon enough, someone calls for her and she dashes off, cloak flapping like a flag of chaos. You stay hidden for just a moment longer. The hay smells like sun and old sheep. Your shoulders sag. You think about sleep. Then someone shouts your name. Again, this time with more urgency. Apparently, the roof needs fixing, because, of course, it does. You're drafted to fix a roof. You stare up at the roof in question and wonder briefly if perhaps this entire village is some elaborate test, the kind you'd expect from a myth or a particularly aggressive life coach. It's not a large roof, but it is tall and made of thatch, which is a polite way of saying loose hay, daring gravity to do something about it. The ladder, leaning against it, looks like it was built by someone who once saw a ladder from across a field. Two of its rungs are suspiciously soft. One is outright missing. You sigh because sighing is free and start climbing. The ladder wobbles like a toddler on stilts. You freeze halfway up when a sudden gust of wind flaps your cloak into your face, blinding you just long enough to imagine your own funeral, probably officiated by that smug cow. At the top, you crawl onto the roof carefully, very carefully. The thatch shifts beneath you as if testing your resolve. It smells like wet straw, ancient smoke, and pigeon decisions. You glance around. No tools? Of course not. Someone hands up a bundle of reeds and a wooden mallet the size of a small chicken. You blink down at them. This is all we have, they say, naturally. You begin patching, one hand holding the thatch, one hand hammering it down with the mallet, one part of your soul hovering above your body in disbelief. The wind picks up again, tugging at the edges of your tunic. You clench your teeth and grip tighter. A chicken watches from a nearby roof. You are unsure how it got there. It seems unimpressed. You wedge another reed bundle in place and secure it. Then another. The rhythm is strangely calming. Press, pound, adjust, repeat. You lose yourself in it for a moment, forgetting the cold, the cow, the fish-based diet. You even forget about your aching thighs until you shift your weight slightly too far and the roof lets out a low creak. You freeze. So does the chicken. You inch back, one hand gripping a support beam that feels more decorative than structural. You make it. Barely. You breathe. Historians still argue how often Viking homes required roof maintenance. While their thatched designs were surprisingly effective at repelling rain and snow, seasonal repairs were common and usually required volunteers, which in this context means whoever made eye contact with the wrong person after lunch. Eventually, someone below waves at you to come down. You nod and begin your descent ladder, creaking beneath you like it wants a say in your will. You reach the ground with all your limbs mostly intact. A few people clap, not because you did well, but because you didn't fall. That's the bar. You dust yourself off and are immediately handed a coil of rope and a command tie off the barrels. You don't know why. You don't ask. You just do it. You find the barrels behind the storage hut, half covered with canvas, and already beginning to freeze. The ropes are stiff. Your fingers are stiffer. You wrap them anyway in awkward loops, knots forming under your breath, and sheer willpower. By the third barrel, you're starting to lose sensation in your thumbs. You finish the last tie-off and stand up just in time to hear a horn. Not a big one, just a low, reedy note blown by a boy with wind-chapped cheeks and a bone instrument. He blows it 3 times. The chieftain is coming. Not the chieftain, mind you, just a chieftain. One of many, the local one, important-ish. Which means it's time to pretend the entire village hasn't just been rolling around in mud and cow drama for the past 6 hours. You are immediately drafted into panic cleaning. You help sweep the path with a birch branch. You pull a goat out of someone's laundry. You rearrange barrels into something that vaguely resembles order. And you wipe your face with a rag that smells like vinegar and onions. It's the best you can do. You take your place in line just behind the blacksmith, just in front of a boy holding a fish like it's a bouquet. The horn blows again. Everyone stands straighter, and the chieftain rides into view on a horse, a very clean horse, because of course it is. A visit from someone important-ish. The chieftain's horse trots in with the self-assurance of someone who's never stepped in its own poop. Its mane is brushed hooves, polished, and there's a sort of smug gleam in its eye, like it knows this village is about to pretend it doesn't smell like pickled herring and wet hay. The chieftain sits tall, draped in a fur cloak that looks like it once belonged to a very fancy bear. His beard is braided, his boots are spotless, and his eyes scan the line of villagers with the bored precision of someone who hasn't needed to haul water in a decade. Behind him trails a small entourage, 2 guards in mismatched armor, one scald with a harp and a truly unfortunate mustache, and a man carrying a barrel. You don't know what's in the barrel, but you know you'll be carrying it by sunset. The chieftain dismounts. You expect a speech, something inspiring, something grand. What you get is this, He sniffs. That's it. Then he nods once and walks toward the longhouse like he invented it. You glance around. No one moves until the chieftain's fur trim disappears through the curtain. Then everything explodes into motion. Someone shoves a broom into your hand. Another hands you a jug of mead that may or may not be watered down. Someone else whispers, they'll expect a toast, then vanishes. You are now on the unofficial hospitality team. Inside the longhouse, a small fire is stoked to life. The air warms just enough to make the smoke settle directly into your eyes. You blink through the tears and set down the mead. The scald clears his throat and begins to sing. It is ambitious. The song appears to involve heroic deeds, exaggerated goat thefts, and at least one reference to thunder thighs of vengeance. The chieftain listens politely, sipping from a horn cup. You take your seat along the wall, trying to become invisible. It's not working. The scald gestures toward you, mid-verse, rhyming your name with grain and pain. You smile tightly. You are not a lyricist. You are barely a participant. Historians still argue whether skalds improvised on the spot or memorized vast poetic sagas. But based on this man's performance, it's safe to say improvisation was both a blessing and a curse. Once the song ends, mercifully, attention turns to the mead. It's passed around warm and sweetish, like honey's tired cousin. You take a sip. It helps. A little. The chieftain finally speaks. This village is tidy. Everyone exhales like they've just dodged a tax. He nods again, more deeply this time. Someone brings out food, flatbread, boiled roots, a questionable slab of smoked fish. The chieftain nibbles. You try not to watch. You absolutely watch. After a few more pleasantries and one awkward attempt at a joke from the harp guy involving a fish, a comb, and the wrong fjord, the visit winds down. The chieftain stands. You stand. Everyone stands. He gives a final nod. Continue your efforts, he says, which is both vague and menacing. Then he leaves. Just like that. The moment he's gone, the village slumps as one. You're handed the barrel. You knew it. It's heavier than it looks and sloshes ominously. You carry it to the shed, trying not to think about what's inside. Someone follows with a ledger, muttering about chestnut quotas and unexpected tribute shortfalls. You nod like you understand. You do not. After the formalities, the cleanup begins. Again, you sweep, carry, stack, and scrape. At one point, you retrieve the same goat again from someone's pantry. It is chewing a shirt. The sun droops lower in the sky now, sending long shadows stretching across the muddy yard. The chill returns, crawling up your sleeves and down your spine. You pull your cloak tighter. Your arms sore your legs, untrustworthy. Someone slaps your back. Not bad, they say. You nod. You survive another hour. Just barely. The goat ritual you weren't told about. You're halfway through stacking the last of the firewood when you hear it. The drum. A single low thump. Soft, slow, and deliberate, like someone tapping on the underside of the world. You freeze, mid-log, turn your head, and see others already doing the same. Faces tilt. Eyebrows rise. No one looks alarmed, but they don't look relaxed either. You put down the log. Another thump, then another. The rhythm builds, not fast but steady like a heartbeat, if your heart belonged to someone with more feathers and stronger opinions. A child tugs your sleeve. It's time, she whispers, then sprints off into the dusk. You follow. Because that's what people do when drums happen and goats disappear. Down the path behind the longhouse and past the old stone marker where moss grows in patterns that look suspiciously like runes, there's a clearing. And in that clearing, a group has gathered. Faces are painted. Torches flicker. The air smells of pine smoke and faintly of turnip. The goat is there too, alive, unbothered, possibly the guest of honor. You take your place near the edge of the circle, trying not to stand out. Someone hands you a wreath of twigs and dried berries. You don't ask questions. You put it on. The drumming stops. A woman steps forward, holding a bowl of something steaming. She tosses a handful of it into the fire. Sparks rise, carrying a scent both sweet and sharp, like mead spiced with something a little too enthusiastic. She chants, or hums, or both. Others join in. It's not a language you recognize, but the meaning hums in your chest, light returning, land thawing hope, reluctantly waking up. This, it seems, is a ritual. Historians still argue over the precise nature of Viking seasonal rituals, how pagan or performative they were, and whether goats were more symbolic or simply always nearby. What is agreed on is that gatherings like these, especially around equinoxes and solstices, were common ways to stitch a community together through warmth, through rhythm, through the shared agreement to take weird things seriously. Now the goat is being painted, not sacrificed. Not this time, just decorated. Swirls of white and ochre on its sides. It seems pleased, or at least resigned. You make accidental eye contact. It blinks slowly. You nod in solidarity. A boy steps forward with a flute made from bone, maybe deer, maybe something less poetic, and begins playing a tune that wavers like the wind. Others clap softly, offbeat, but earnestly. You're handed a drink. It tastes like honey and bark. You drink it anyway. Then comes the part where people dance. Not gracefully, not in unison, but with purpose, stomping and swaying and laughing in a way that feels older than memory. You're dragged in by someone who grins too much and spins too fast. Your feet trip. Your hands flail. You laugh. The stars are coming out now, one by one, slow and deliberate, like shy performers. A woman begins a story. No one interrupts. It's about the sea and a ship and a storm that swallowed pride. Her voice is low and slow. The crowd leans in. Even the goat seems interested. You sit sipping something warm and questionable as the tale unfolds. You hear the words, but more than that, you feel the rhythm of it, like waves, like oars, like the wind pushing time forward, whether you like it or not. When the story ends, no one claps. They just nod. The fire pops. A log collapses inward with a soft hiss. Someone stands and announces that the fish is ready. Of course there's fish. You line up behind a boy whose face is still streaked with charcoal and joy. He holds a plate made from bark. You are handed a flat piece of wood with something pinkish and steaming. It smells better than expected. You eat by firelight. It's soft, a little chewy, but warm. That's what matters. People drift away in twos and threes, their silhouettes disappearing into the night like stories that will be remembered only if someone chooses to retell them. You stay a while longer until the fire is mostly ash and the goat has fallen asleep beside the drums. Then you rise and go, back toward the longhouse, back toward sleep, back toward another kind of strange. Dinner is boiled until sad. The longhouse looms in the dark like a sleeping beast, low, wide, and creaking faintly in the wind. You step inside immediately, swallowed by the warmth, the smoke and the smell of stew that's been boiling so long it's forgotten its original ingredients. It's dinner time, and that means more boiled things. A woman ladles grayish mush into bowls. It smells vaguely of roots and resignation. There's meat in it, technically, bits of something that once swam or crawled or maybe just sat still too long near a trap. You accept the bowl. You don't ask. You sit on a rough bench between two people you don't recognize. One sneezes into their sleeve. The other offers you a wooden spoon with a carved spiral on the handle. You nod in thanks and stir the stew. It thickens, just for movement. That's not ideal. You take a bite. It's hot, and that's where the compliments end. Still, it's dinner. And after the day you've had hauling buckets, chasing cows, dodging children with weapons, this is a banquet. You chew slowly, very slowly, mostly for self-preservation. Across the room, someone starts humming, then another joins in. It becomes a sort of lullaby. No words, just low meandering notes that wind through the smoke and rest against your temples. Your eyes sting, but you're not sure if it's the stew, the fire, or something more poetic. You eat another spoonful. The longhouse is crowded now, bodies packed together in layers of fur and wool, sharing space and heat like it's currency. Someone belches. Someone laughs. Someone complains about the stew, but only quietly, loud enough to be heard, not loud enough to be challenged. The fire crackles, sparks drift upward and vanish among the rafters. Your bowl is empty. When did that happen? You set it aside. Someone offers you a cup of something warm and vaguely medicinal. You drink it. It coats your throat in a way that makes you suspicious and grateful all at once. The blacksmith tells a story about a horse that wouldn't stop sneezing. It's not a good story, but it's told with such seriousness that everyone listens anyway. At the punchline, which is more of a confused shrug than a joke, people chuckle softly. You chuckle too, mostly out of peer pressure. Then comes the flute, the same bone flute from earlier. The notes wobble at first, unsure of themselves, then settle into a rhythm, slow, wandering, repetitive, like a memory trying to find its way back home. You lean against the wall. The flute continues. A woman beside you dozes off, mid-knitting. Her needles clack once, then fall silent in her lap. A child across the fire snores like a tiny bear. A dog stretches out near the hearth, releasing a sound that could generously be called a sigh. Less generously, a warning. You are full. You are tired. But sleep doesn't come just yet, because now someone's passing around a pouch of dried herbs meant for chewing, they say. Good for dreams. You decline politely. You don't need help dreaming tonight. You've already seen enough to last a week. Historians still debate the contents of the Viking diet, especially in the winter months. While fish and root vegetables where staples fermented dairy, dried meats, and preserved stews were common too. The flavor described generously as functional, the presentation often in one bowl, shared. Someone plays a softer tune now. You close your eyes, letting the music and the flickering shadows lull your thoughts into that quiet space between waking and sleep. Then someone shifts beside you. You open one eye. It's the goat. Of course it is. It's wandered inside again and settled next to you like an old friend. It smells like pine needles and poor decisions. But it's warm. You don't argue. The goat rests its head on your knee. You sigh and accept it. The longhouse hums with life, dull, rhythmic, familiar. Someone farts gently. No one reacts. You're not sure if this is what you imagined when you pictured Viking dinner, but honestly, you're too tired to care. You lean your head back and let the quiet carry you. Firelight, flatulence, and flute songs. The fire's glow is fading now, sinking low into a cradle of embers, its light flickering gently across the rough-hewn walls. Shadows stretch and sway like tired dancers. Around you, bodies shift under furs and cloaks settling into sleep, the way ships settle into harbor, slowly, with a few creaks and a lot of sighs. You try to make yourself comfortable on the bench. It's narrow, uneven, and holds the faint scent of someone else's feet. You shift, adjust, shift again. Eventually you give up and slide down onto the floor, tucking yourself against the wall, fur pulled over your shoulders, knees drawn up. The goat is still there. It breathes steadily, rhythmically, and you're not sure if that's comforting or unnerving. Either way, it's become your heat source. You reach out and rest your hand on its side. It doesn't move. This is your life now. Someone near the fire starts snoring deep, thunderous, and with a vibrato that suggests serious nasal commitment. It echoes. Someone else sighs, dramatically. No one shushes them. There are no rules at this hour. Then a sound, a soft toot. The snorer pauses, then resumes. You press your lips together, trying not to laugh. Because this is sacred space now. The longhouse, the nighttime hush, the symphony of digestion. The blacksmith is curled near the far wall, wrapped in a blanket that definitely used to be a curtain. His massive hand sticks out fingers, twitching like he's dreaming of hammers. Beside him, a boy clutches a wooden sword and mumbles in his sleep about dragons or possibly ducks. It's hard to tell. The bone flute rests nearby, its last notes still clinging to the air like steam. No one plays now. It's the hour when even the loudest souls quiet down, when the only sounds are crackling embers, shifting furs, and the occasional philosophical goat sigh. You close your eyes, but sleep still dances just out of reach. So you listen to the rhythm of a Viking village at rest, to the wind outside rubbing against the thatch roof like fingers drumming on a drum, too tired to answer back, to the fire whispering to itself in a language older than breath, to your own heartbeat, slow and steady, echoing somewhere beneath the layers of wool dirt and mild emotional scarring. Historians still debate how Vikings slept, whether they had individual spaces or communal bedding. But most agree that privacy wasn't exactly a priority. Longhouses were shared, heated by central fires, and full of people who weren't particularly bashful about anything, including digestion or midnight rants about sheep theft. Someone shifts in their sleep and accidentally elbows you in the thigh. You don't move because comfort is a myth. You glance upward through the smoke hole above the hearth. The stars are out faint and cold, watching silently. You wonder how many of them are even real. You wonder if Vikings thought the same. Probably. And then they probably named them after a bear, or a fish, or someone's ex-wife. The goat sneezes. You pat it once without looking, and finally, your eyelids begin to grow heavy. The weight of the day presses gently on your bones, soft, persistent, and full of meaning. You hauled, chased, lifted, and fell. You made it through the cow escape, the field work, the goat ritual, and dinner stew that defied classification. You survived, which in a Viking village is really saying something. Someone near the hearth mutters a blessing to no one in particular. It floats into the dark like smoke. You murmur something back. Not words, just sound. Then stillness. True stillness. The kind that only comes when the village sleeps. Dreams of raiding, reality of rashes. The world returns in pieces. First, the sound of someone stirring blankets, shifting a foot, scraping across the floor. A grunt that could mean good morning, or my hip just betrayed me. Then, the light gray dull, not so much rising as reluctantly unfolding across the sky. It spills through the smoke hole, touches the edges of the longhouse like a cautious hand. No sunrise glory here, just another day trying to exist. You're not fully awake. Not yet. Your joints ache. Your mouth is dry. The side of your face feels like it borrowed the texture of the floor. You open one eye, then the other. The goat is gone. It left without saying goodbye. Typical. You sit up slowly, cloaked in last night's stiffness, and stretch your arms toward the rafters. Something pops. Maybe your shoulder, maybe time itself. Around you, the others begin to stir. Someone groans. Someone yawns, so loudly it sets off a chain reaction. The blacksmith sneezes into the fire, which responds with a hiss of mild judgment. You shuffle to your feet. Your legs wobble like they forgot how to be legs. You step outside, and the cold punches you in the lungs. It's crisp, sharp, like inhaling clean knives. Your eyes water immediately, as if your face itself is rejecting this day. You trudge toward the well to splash water on your face, but the bucket is frozen. You scrape a bit of frost into your palms instead. Rub it in. That counts as skincare in the Viking world. Someone nearby is already chopping wood. You wave weakly. He grunts in return. Then from across the field you hear it again. A voice. Loud. Hopeful. Boats coming in. Heads turn. People shuffle. The words ripple through the village like warm broth through a cold belly. A boat means new things. News. Goods. Sometimes strangers, sometimes danger, but mostly it means something different. And that alone is exciting. You follow the others toward the shore, rubbing your arms for warmth. The path is muddy and still half frozen, your boots sinking in with every step. The dock is simple, just planks and rope and optimism. The boat is small, but solid sail furled a few figures already stepping off. One of them stumbles. Everyone pretends not to notice. There are crates, barrels, a suspiciously large sack that smells like onions and fish stew's evil cousin. People gather quickly, a flurry of greetings and exchanges, some spoken, some just nods and quick glances. The merchant, broad beard full of ice, unloads without fanfare. You help, because of course you do. You lift, you carry, you stack, and in return, you're handed a reward. A new tunic, wool, heavy, not fashionable by modern standards, but to you, a miracle. Not stiff, not itchy, still warm from the sack. You slip it on under your cloak and feel like royalty. Smelly, frostbitten royalty. The merchant offers samples of something fermented and yellow. You decline, politely. Then, suddenly, quietly, someone mentions raiding season, just loud enough for the words to ripple. Some of the younger men glance at each other. Smiles creep across faces. Others look away. Not everyone here raids. Not everyone here wants to. But the talk is always there, like the first itch of spring. Soon, someone mutters. You nod, though you don't know what you're agreeing to. Historians still argue about how common raids really were among Viking villagers. Were they seasonal field trips for young warriors, a way to supplement income, or just over-mythologized memories written down by monks with a flair for drama? No one knows for sure. But here, now the talk is real, and you feel the tension underneath excitement, dread the lure of distant lands, and the comfort of staying put. You shift your weight. Then the moment passes. The boatmen finish unloading. People drift away. You're handed a bundle of something you didn't ask for, but now apparently own. And just like that, the day rolls forward again. No raid. Not today. You lie awake, wondering how you'll do it again. You walk back from the dock with the bundle in your arms, a curious mix of cloth scraps, smoked roots, and what you think is a very tired carrot. You don't ask questions. Asking questions leads to chores. The sun is higher now, though you wouldn't know it from the sky. It hangs low and pale like a candle trying not to offend anyone. The wind has picked up again, rustling through the eaves, lifting strands of hay off rooftops, sending them twirling like lost thoughts. The village hums back to life, Someone is chopping turnips with alarming force. Someone else is trying to repair a cartwheel with twine and hope. And you've been volunteered to help clean the fish racks. Again. You approach the drying lines where yesterday's catch has crisped into leathery submission. The smell is a presence, not just fish, ancient fish, the kind that once dreamed of oceans and now live in your sinuses. You begin pulling down the fillets, stacking them onto woven trays. The flesh stick slightly peels off with a sound that will follow you to your dreams. A child nearby is singing something about a magic herring and the moon. You pretend not to listen, but the tune lodges in your brain like a splinter. Your hands move automatically now, the rhythm of the day taking over. Peel, stack, step, turn. You don't think. You just do, and that's when it hits you. Not a fish, not a child's stick sword, just a moment. A flicker of realization. You've done it. You've survived. A full day in this village. From the freezing floor at dawn to the stew at dusk, the goat ritual, the blacksmith's off-key, humming the absolutely unreasonable number of small-armed children. Through it all, you remained upright. Mostly. There's a pride in that. Not the grand kind. Not the saga-worthy, eagle-wrestling poetry and blood kind, but the quiet kind. The kind that lives in your sore hands and your dirty clothes, and the way no one had to yell at you twice. You're not one of them, but you didn't break. And that's something. You finish with the fish and hand the tray off to someone who grunts their thanks. You sit on a low wall, watching the smoke curl up from the longhouse. Your breath mingles with it, disappearing into the cold air. Around you, life goes on. The goat passes by, still painted, still judgmental. You nod at it. It doesn't nod back. Children run past again. Fewer weapons this time. More laughter. Someone throws a snowball. Someone throws a chicken. You don't ask. A woman sets out woven mats to dry. A man is mending boots with a needle longer than your hand. The blacksmith is arguing with the cow. Everything is as it should be. Historians still wonder how ordinary Viking villagers measured time. Without clocks, days blurred, marked not by hours, but by tasks. Feed the animals, fix the roof, mend the net, start the fire. Life was measured in repetition, not milestones. And today, you lived one of those days, start to finish. No glory, no conquest. Just the slow, quiet weight of survival. And now the sky begins to shift. The lights soften, the cold deepens. It's time to sleep. Again, you step back into the longhouse. The same bench, the same goat, the same fur you dragged over your shoulders this morning. You lie down. You exhale. And the thought returns. You'll have to do it all again tomorrow. But not tonight. Tonight you rest. The fire crackles beside you. Someone's flute rests silently nearby. The last light of the day fades out through the smoke hole above, and slowly, gently, Your eyes close. The longhouse is quiet now. The laughter has faded into memory. The chores are forgotten. The drums, the stew, the fish, the goat, they drift softly through your thoughts like snow falling into the sea. Outside the village sleeps beneath a sky full of stars. Cold ones, distant, but faithful. The wind no longer bites it, whispers. Through branches, across rooftops, around the stones of the hearth. A lullaby in a language no one remembers, but everyone understands. You are warm, you are tired, and you are here. Your body sinks into the earth floor beneath you, heavy with the effort of the day. Your fingers loosen. Your breath slows. The ache in your shoulders softens into stillness. There is nothing left to carry. Not tonight. Just rest. Let the darkness hold you. Let the fire hum beside you. Let the last thoughts of fish and wool and wooden spoons float away on the smoke. You are not a warrior. You are not a chieftain. You are not a hero from the sagas. You are someone who endured quietly, completely, with dirt on your face and frozen mud on your boots. And that is enough. So let yourself drift away from the longhouse, away from the chores, away from the weight of the cold morning yet to come. You've done enough. Sleep now. Sleep.